Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Trending in Hollywood. I, of course, am Scott Menzel, happily joined by Mr. Demetri Panos. Hey, Demetri, how are you?
Hello. Oh, trending, baby, trending. We're trending in Hollywood. And boy, howdy, did we prove that this week, no?
What, with the Amazon deal?
Absolutely.
We called that like crazy last week?
Absolutely. People were like, well, I don't know. Yeah, it could happen. We're like, no, it's going to happen.
So, Demetri, what do we have today? I heard we have some special guests that we might have just sneak peeked in there for a second there.
Yeah. So today it really is trending in Hollywood. And today it's all about going to the movies. Scott, you know that I love the movie going experience and I champion it as often as I can, shout it from rooftops. And I learned about this movement, so to speak, called Cinema Week, in which it's going to promote and inspire people, those who might have some trepidation going back to the movies, well, to go back to the movies and enjoy that experience that we all love so much. So I reached out to these fine people and they agreed. Can you believe they agreed, Scott? They agreed.
They must have never seen the show, Demetri.
No. I tried to hide it from them, but they're here regardless. So we have the founder of Cinema Week, Brandon Jones, and we have Melissa Boudreau, who's the marketing guru behind all of this, pushing this marketing campaign out. And it all started with an article I read in the trades. Oh my God, it has to be over a month ago now. So hello.
Hello.
Well,
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
It really is a pleasure. And I know Scott can back me up on this. I think it's really important. And it's such a great initiative to do, particularly right now. And it's one of those things where you're like, how come nobody's thought of this before? And here we are. So it takes a pandemic to do it. But regardless of that, I just think people love the experience. Studios have to continue to embrace it. And I'm so happy that you're here. But Scott, I think we should quickly bring our guests into the conversation, because there really was a lot trending in Hollywood this week, including the Amazon MGM buy. And then we're going to talk about some big movies that are coming out this weekend. And I think that's the perfect segue to talk about Cinema Week and going back to the movies. And so to get to talk about going to the movies for a show, for me, it just makes me giddy.
All right, so let's ask the professionals here today.
Yes,
let's open up. Everyone has heard our opinion. They've heard us ramble on for the last couple of months now. To you, Brandon and Melissa, what do you think? What does this Amazon deal mean for the future of the industry? What's your take on it? We'll start with Brandon.
Oh, wow. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys having us here, first and foremost. It's an honor to be on the show and contribute to this and share our experiences about going to the movies, something we dearly love. So we are champions of exhibition as well. And I really hope this Amazon deal means, that there's going to be more product available in theaters. Certainly coming from a major streamer, that might be a challenge, but I think the real purpose of this deal more than anything was about the catalog that MGM provides for their platform. And it's my understanding that a movie like James Bond, No Time to Die, will still be in theaters, which is what in the short term I'm most concerned about. But, there's some other franchises within there as well that, now there may be a possibility with money behind this that content gets reimagined and we start bringing some of this back to the big screen. Certainly Amazon has the wherewithal to do that. And they've been a studio for a long time. So it's not like they're unfamiliar with this space and producing films. And a lot of their films have made it to the big screen. So I'm hoping that this is a foray into this. It is a long pole in the tent. This is not short-sighted on their part at all. So I think if the box office continues to prove itself and moviegoers are back in theaters, that's where movies will play.
Awesome. How about you, Melissa? What's your take?
I agree with pretty much everything that Brandon said. I think it will be interesting to see if they do like a day and date model or what they will do with this, acquisition. But I'm pretty sure I already read that Bond is going to theaters and it's not going to be a day and date situation. So I feel like that makes us really hopeful as to what the future is. I think they just wanted the catalog. And I do think Amazon Studios, quote unquote, likes to bring things to the big screen. So it's just been a wild year. I'm not surprised by the news anymore as to what's coming out. This was a little surprising.
Well, here's a question too, because this was something we talked about last week, because the way I think this could happen is that, yes, Amazon has attempted many a time, and they've brought their movies into the theaters. Manchester by the Sea, Brittany Runs a Marathon. Both were really good movies. One made some ripples as far as awards goes. But I'm thinking, like, for them, that it could be a good idea that when they release theatrically, they release it under the MGM title, because that has more of a cachet, more of a nostalgia feeling. More people know theatrically MGM, where I think Amazon has really... People know Amazon for shipping and for streaming. Let's be honest, more so than they do theatrically. As much as they have tried within that window. What are your thoughts on that possibly happening?
I feel like that would make sense. I mean, if they distribute under MGM, that would be the best way to do it. And I just read Bob Iger's book, if anyone from Disney, totally separate conversation, but he talks a lot about one of the best books I've ever read, especially if you're in this industry, but about how when they acquired things that they really tried to keep them in place and as their own entity. I don't know if Amazon's going to do that, but I think of Whole Foods, and there's changes at Whole Foods, but they're still running under that. I know it's not movie related, but maybe a page out of that book where they just want to have more assets and they're just going to run this as a different silo. I mean, that's the best case scenario in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would, a lot of the studios have brands and companies underneath them that run as their own brands. I mean, Columbia is still a thing. I mean, New Line, under the Disney banner, they run studios. Disney owns the company, but there's Pixar and Marvel, and so this could very well be that case, that MGM runs as a studio, a true studio, for this product. And look, content, I'm not saying all the content that's produced right now is great, but it is the golden era of content, right?
Absolutely.
Like, there's more content being produced. There's more places to play it. So if you're into something and it's out there, and, we're consuming more content because there's more places to consume it, the movie theaters just happens to be the best place for really big pictures and to go for an experience.
I mean, that brings up a point about content and being overwhelmed with content, though, too. I love going to the theater, so I don't have 700 things that I know what I'm going to see. I'm not scrolling. I don't think that this deal is meant to acquire more Amazon Prime users, right? Like this, no. I don't think that that's what this is about. But going back to the plethora of content, it's overwhelming. And that's why I love going to the theater, because I know what I'm going to see and I'm not overwhelmed.
Gee, Scott, we have never talked about content being overwhelming.
I have never said that before in my life. I have never ever said that there was not too much content out there and people can't find it. It gets lost. Never, ever, ever. But
so true.
I mean, I actually have a question. I know none of us have the answer for any of this. So it's a hypothetical question that I'm just kind of curious to pick your brain on. In your opinions, what do you think companies can do to kind of get their content out there more to get more eyeballs on it? Is it that they should not make as much content? Should they be spacing content out more? Like, what do you think the perfect, not like the perfect solution, but what would you offer as suggestions so that you have movies or TV shows that actually get noticed and so many fall by the radar? Like, what would be your suggestions for people? We'll start with Melissa on that.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I was like, pick Brandon.
You didn't think we were gonna throw you all softballs, did you?
Look, I, as Brandon can attest, I am a process organized, crazy person that just needs everything in a certain order. So this question for me is crazy because I think, yes, spreading it out is the first thing to do. We don't need 17 things to come out either in streaming or in a theater at the same time. We just don't need that. But when you add in TV shows on top of it, there's just so much. I think it has to be organized within the platform. Like, I have Apple TV. I really like Apple TV. I like how they organize the app. But then when I'm going into all the other apps, I don't want to call out any of the streaming services, but some of them make it impossible to find does the alphabet have to be, can you put it in a different order? Do I have to click every letter? I think I don't have an answer on how to organize it, but I think there's better ways, and there's just too much content out there. And maybe it's you silo your app into just having only TV shows on one, movies on another. I don't know the answer because I'm constantly overwhelmed by all of the content. And instead, sometimes my husband and I'll sit down and be like, let's watch a movie.
Oh, that's the worst moment.
And then we end up not watching anything after 2 hours of searching for a movie to watch. So how to organize it all? I don't know. I don't know.
Melissa, that is my Friday night every night. My wife, Ashley, will hand me the remote and she'll be like, pick something. And I'll go on Netflix, scroll through. Okay, I don't really see anything that sticks out. All right, boot up Amazon Prime, boom, 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 boom. Hulu, boom, 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 boom. And literally an hour and a half later, she goes to me, are we going to freaking watch something here or not?
Same. One thing that I will say is, do you guys use Letterboxd? Because I love them because you can search on their app.
Yes.
And it'll tell you at least all of, if you had something in mind, it'll tell you where you can find those things instead of doing the scrolling game. But sometimes you don't know what you want to watch. And then you're doing, Scott, exactly what happens at my house every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When you look at it, when was the last time we all sat, there was a moment when everybody watched something streaming kind of in the zeitgeist, and then we all went out and talked about it. And to me, it was Tiger King 14 months ago. That was the last time something really caught, I feel like, everybody's attention. And so everybody went and found it. And I really think it comes down to, who's your audience for this particular piece of content and being able to get it in front of that audience. Some of the smaller streaming services, they cater to their audience better, whether that's Shudder or Magnolia Pictures or whatever, that they know who their audience is. That's the content they produce for it. So you can go to that very specific streaming service and the content is there. It's the generalized content that I think just gets lost, and it is a struggle. And I find myself at home more into episodic TV than I do finding movies because it's just not as good to watch the movie at home.
No. And okay, so I'm still old school. I have DirecTV with all of the movie channels, and I always scroll through them first. And I know 256 is Turner Classic Movies. So I go there first. What's on? Something I haven't seen, something I've seen. Then I go through all the HBOs and the Cinemax, see what's going on. There's so much content out there. When you mention Tiger King, or even something like a Bird Box, right? I don't think Netflix necessarily knows what's going to catch fire.
Yeah.
Because it comes out of nowhere. We would call it in the business a sleeper hit. when something comes out and you just have no idea, and it takes the audiences and the world by storm. So yeah, for me, I will still look at Blu-ray. I do like how HBO Max is set up, in part because they have hubs and they have a Turner Classic Movies hub. Yeah. So I like to go and watch older movies. I still buy physical content in the means of Blu-ray. And again, I understand I'm a dinosaur when it comes to that, but that's because I do love movies and owning the movies. But the physical content of it, and I like the special editions that go with all that. One thing, though, that I think regarding the MGM Amazon deal that I thought was very telling that came out this week is that the CEO to Sony came out and he just declared adamantly, "We're not for sale. We're not for sale." And it's like, okay, why would you say that? And so they're a little bit twitchy, and I found it ironic being that they just made this mega deal with Netflix for Netflix to distribute their content. Speaking of content, and I'm sure if Netflix came up and said, "Well, we're going to offer you $15 billion," he'd go, "We're not for what? What was that number again?" I think if he's saying we're not for sale, that means, but you're allowed to kick the tires. And I know when I was at Lionsgate for like a decade, they were always for sale.
Everyone's always for sale.
Exactly. So,
I just want to add on that real quick. Yeah. I mean, it's ironic because, in my opinion, by giving Netflix selling it, obviously, the Mitchells versus the Machines, which I think right now should be a front runner for Best Animated Feature. It makes me question whether Sony really does believe that or not. And the fact that they have the deal with Marvel going on with Spider-Man. So it's like that animation movie, like if that was in a movie theater and the word of mouth built on that, that would have been a massive hit. I mean, it's the biggest streaming movie on Netflix this year so far. And it's phenomenal. I know people have watched it multiple times. And that, like we said, the Netflix deal with their content and then, selling this movie to them and then the Marvel deal. I take that with a grain of salt. I really take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. So, but let's talk big movies. There are at least two big movies opening this week.
It's a big weekend.
It's probably
so happy to have big weekends back.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of refreshing, right? But I also feel it's, like a litmus test, because we have one movie that's adhering to some semblance of a window, albeit an abbreviated window. It's still exclusively only in theaters, that movie being A Quiet Place 2. The other movie, Cruella, is opening up in theaters. 3,800 or so locations, 3,800 locations, which is pretty wide. We're one of the widest, if not the widest, since the pandemic, and it's on Disney Plus. So, two things I wanted to throw to you folks. Number one, I think from a location count standpoint, we're nearing normalcy. I mean, we have capacity limitations in the theaters, right? Those will that's going to expand, but from a location count, when you have a movie that's 3,800 locations, that's, Avenger movies top 4,000 plus. Now we're almost at the 4,000. I think from a location count standpoint, we're almost near normalcy. I know that there are some theaters still closed, but what say you?
Yeah, from an exhibitor standpoint and screen count in locations, the way we're looking at it, and we're built, our business we own some movie theaters as well. So from a location standpoint, I think we're at about 80 to 85% of locations that were open, that were in business pre-pandemic to open now. And I think there will be another 5 to 10% that will ultimately open because they're in renovation or the restrictions are changing hands. but I believe that there will be, at least in the short term, a 10% permanent impairment on location count. So, when we start comparing box offices and screen counts and releasing, I think we need to take that slight adjustment into account when we're looking at those numbers.
Agreed. Interesting.
And capacity. I mean,
yeah, capacity.
I think that the theaters will be doing their best to accommodate multiple showtimes and maybe even expanding their showtimes just so they can accommodate the demand. But I mean, Brandon and I, who have a lot of exhibitor partners, most people are sold out already for the evening shows this week for A Quiet Place, which is the best news I've heard in 13 months.
Yeah, I think it's really positive going into a Memorial Day weekend, because you also have to take into account that this long weekend is our actual, in a sense, first long weekend in which, there's a very good percentage of the people in the country vaccinated, feeling better about travel. And I think it's going to be the first time for many to have barbecues and to maybe be at a beach and to be with people that they haven't seen in about a year. So I think that could factor into, am I going to go to see A Quiet Place 2, or am I going to go see my family that I haven't seen in a year and, have a hamburger and a hot dog? I think that they can coexist. You always hope. I'm from the East Coast. So the one thing that always hit, like when you had a long weekend, if it rained, I don't care if you were in New Hampshire or Cape Cod, you're going to the movies. That's it, because you can't do anything else. So I'm sure the box office gods are like going, rain on the East Coast.
I think they're getting rain too, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm in Detroit, so I'm not in the East Coast, but I'm in the Midwest. This will be going to the East Coast. It is 48 and raining here today. So the Midwest will be busy. This will be moving to the East Coast tomorrow.
Right.
And when you talk about that I think people are really interested in getting back to experiences. So yes, the movie's playing on a streaming service. And yes, I want to get together with my family, but yes, I am dying to get out and get an experience. I've been limited on experiences. Yes, getting together with family and friends is important, but I feel like that has slowly been happening, especially, regionally, but even in the coast where it was more of a severe lockdown. I know people for the last several months who have been getting together with friends and family that they haven't seen in a while, because, people tend to get vaccinated or whatever, or have the same thought about, do I get out or not get out? So I really do feel like this is going back to what used to be the traditional kickoff to the summer movie season on Memorial weekend, before it got bumped up a week and then 2 weeks and then the last weekend of April. Now we're like getting this back to this traditional summer kickoff to the movie season with two different films, two audiences that can bring that out. And hey, it's a long weekend. There's plenty of time. Starting last night, there's plenty of time between last night and Monday night to go out and pick one of these films.
Right. And I mean, Quiet Place 2 took in 4.8 million, which on a Thursday night, which is not too shabby for a sequel. And even Cruella took in 1.4 million. And that too is going up against that it's coming out streaming. I think what's going to be fascinating, and it'll be great talk points say on Tuesday, is did Disney leave money on the box office table by going streaming, by playing it on Disney Plus? Because Cruella, I mean, the reviews of it have been really solid, I believe, thus far. A lot of people have been liking it. It would be a good thing to take your young adult, your family to. I think A Quiet Place Part 2, being that off of the success of the first one and it being somewhat of a genre picture too, people want the excitement. They want to. You don't get that when you watch at home, right? You don't get that. And I remember when I saw the first Quiet Place, and I'll tell you, I saw it at the Cinemark in Baldwin Hills. I live in Leimert Park. And let me tell you, to watch a movie like that with that audience. I don't know anybody there. I was by myself. It was a Thursday night preview. All I can tell you is if we were adhering to the rules of the Quiet Place world, we would have all been dead.
Yeah. I've said this before that I feel like A Quiet Place is the ultimate demonstration of audience interaction.
Yes.
And your interaction is to shut the fuck up. Right? But everybody has to participate at the same time versus when that movie is a different experience.
Yes.
When you watch it at home by yourself. If you turn that movie on at 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday night and watch it by yourself, it's a good movie. If you see it in a theater on Friday night or Saturday night at 9 o'clock with a group of people, that is an experience.
Yes.
And I think we talk about what is the feeling of the movies. And a lot of times we really try to pin this down. And it's really the feeling you get in anticipation of going to the movies and the feeling you have after the movie. Like during the movie, you're experiencing whatever is going on. After the movie, I can be excited. I can be happy. I can be laughing. Before the movie is this anticipation. So I think A Quiet Place has nailed it. People are excited and anticipating this moment. Where Cruella being on a streaming service, there's not as much urgency. So I think that really plays into this excitement factor of I want to go see A Quiet Place with an audience and with other people in this moment.
I also want to add real quick to that point. So Demetri made a point earlier about how Cruella would be interested to see how that plays. I don't feel that Quiet Place and Cruella are good testing grounds in terms of those two comparisons. To me, if we had a Quiet Place and a Black Widow, I think the conversation would be completely different. And this is the reason why I say that. The Cruella like buzz initially was very, very negative. And this is something where as people in the industry, we have to read rooms. And the room is everyone was very unsure of Cruella. Even if you read some of the reviews, there are some really negative reviews for that movie. And to me personally, and as someone who has niece and nephews, I don't know who that movie's for. I cannot tell a 6 or 7 year old kid to go see that movie. Maybe a teenager, yes, but not a 6 or 7 year old to go see a movie like that. It's a little bit too adult, and the themes and stuff that goes on there a little too dark. The Quiet Place, on the other hand, is very much, Brandon, what you were saying is that it's an experience. Again, I'll never forget seeing that movie at South by Southwest, being at the premiere and the first one, and the crowd just going wild and everyone running out of the theater oh my God, what? I mean, I said this before on the show. I met with Bex and Woods, the writers of the first one, right afterwards, the next day. And I said, this is going to be huge. They're like, no freaking way. This movie's we made this for nothing. It's never going to go anywhere. I'm like, no, trust me, it's going to be huge. And, here we are. We have this sequel, and the reviews are just as strong for this one, if not stronger. I mean, I've seen multiple people say that this is even better. And like you said, this is a real experience. I think Cruella, yes, it has beautiful costumes and it has beautiful production design, but it's a very different experience. And I think that really means something to people when they're looking at pandemic, life after pandemic. They want an experience and they're going to go. They're going to go see Fast 9. Again, I have feelings on Fast 9, but people are going to see that because it's an experience. It's a group thing. Black Widow, people are going to see it. I think Cruella was a testing, and I think that's why it got that dual release thing, because I don't think that Disney felt overly confident about it. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we were talking about this in the pre-show. I'm not sure exactly who Cruella's for either. I want to see it, and don't feel like I'm really the demographic that they're going after. I think it looks like an interesting film, and it's bizarre and out there, and it looks big. I feel like that's why you go see it. I've seen A Quiet Place too, and what I liked about it that they did with this one, it is not the first Quiet Place. It is a different movie. It's a different. It's the different set of circumstances. It's the prequel in essence. So It's just different, and that's what I think is so unique about it. And it gave a fresh look at something. They didn't just try to go off their success and repeat what they had done. So it really gives you a reason to go back to the theater and see it.
It does. I couldn't agree. It was my second movie back at the theater. Scott, we had seen it together at an AMC Dolby theater. It was at Century City. And yeah, no, A Quiet Place 2 is exactly what it's a great movie going experience. But I also look at Cruella being of its production design, its costume design. It is really big. It really would fill out a movie screen. And I think the performances were really solid. I say, Scott, it's compare them not because of genre, but because one is, it's going to be difficult for Disney to say, how could we have done box office wise see, my dog's agreeing with me. How box office wise, like, had we not, like, this is going to be a big weekend. Obviously Cruella is for a bit of a different audience because it's Disney. Had we not gone streaming, could we have made that additional box office dollars? And I think that's what I think come next week, people are going to be talking about. In fact, they're already talking about it today, that going Disney Plus Premium will probably hinder and take away and impact its box office.
But what we also talked about so many times, Demetri, is the fact that we don't know what Disney Plus numbers are, of how many people watched it or how much income came from it. So it's not even fair to have that conversation because we don't know those numbers.
No, we don't, and they'll never release them. So
I would love to know those numbers. I think going back, I'm sure we all would. Going back to the audience for Cruella, I've thought about this a lot too, and I think it's nostalgia. It's for people in our age range who loved the Dalmatian films growing up, and most people who I'm talking to, like mid 30s, 40s, 50s, are very excited to see this film and maybe take their older children. But I agree that I don't think it's made for 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
No.
But I think it'll be a nostalgia film, you know?
Yeah, I think I think it'll get people in for that hip haute couture that it's going to be, selling. I mean, I was at the Disney parks the last weekend, and they're already selling the Cruella costume, so to speak, the clothing, the makeup, and I foresee in the very near future, little Cruellas running around the parks. So with the shock of black and white hair. But let's talk big movies, and let's talk about getting people back into movies, getting them to feel comfortable and getting them to have that movie-going experience that we all loved before pandemic, and I ached for it. So let's talk. Cinema Week is going to be a week, June 22nd through June 27th, a week dedicated to inspiring people to go to the movies, get butts in seats. Let's talk Cinema Week. Let's talk big movies. My first question, Brandon, you're the founder of this. What was your inspiration? How did you come up with this? And
well, it's amazing that there hasn't been a Cinema Week before. I mean, I feel like it's a very intuitive idea that there's Restaurant Week, Wine Week, Fashion Week, Shark Week. I mean, a lot of things have a week dedicated to it. And it's amazing in a business that we even talk about it, that runs on movie weeks, right? That Friday to Thursday, that's a movie week. That there wasn't anything in the industry before. Now, I know internationally they do this in some markets, whether they do a cinema day or they do have some, I think Italy and France have some Cinema Week type events that are more run collectively. It has not been done here in North America, in the United States, Canada, which is where we are focused right now. But taking you back, I mean, literally almost a year ago, I've been a theatrical exhibitor marketer for a long time. And we were talking about, how do we make an impact, not just for, our clients or whatever, but how do we make an impact for the entire industry? And so we started formulating this idea and really just brainstorming what could work. And there's Record Store Day, and there's Restaurant Week, and there's American Express Shop Small. In the Independent Cinema Alliance in January 2020 ran an event called Love Local Cinema. And I think if you put all of that together, that's really what inspired the thought of Cinema Week. So I had reached out to Melissa, and we started talking, and we shared the same, inspiration from this. And in September of last year, we really went out and formalized what Cinema Week was. We trademarked it. We built an entity around it, and we just started putting the pieces together. I will say it's been very hard to get this many people in this industry all on the same page to focus on an event like this. But through a lot of generosity and motivated people, the inaugural Cinema Week is coming June 22nd through the 27th.
And you plan on this being in perpetuity, correct? So not just this year because we're post-pandemic and getting people. This is something, and I agree 100% by this. It really, this is why I reached out. Full transparency, Scott, full transparency. I told you this. I read about this. I love the idea. And I was like, how can I get involved? What can I do? I looked, Brandon, how do I contact you? I found you, Melissa, and you unfortunately responded. So we kept on talking. But in all honesty, I was looking to join in. I was looking for a job to say, how can I be a part of this? Because I really think, again, you're talking to someone who champions the movie-going experience. And we chatted, and then I was like, well, I am part of this podcast called Trending in Hollywood, part of the Hollywood Critics Association. That's how this ball got rolling. And because I really do feel people, it's fun. And if you can have a restaurant week and Record Store Day and comic book day, to have a cinema week, to get people maybe even to go to a different movie theater that they're out of their comfort zone, and to have, instead of going to an AMC, go to a Draft House, go to someplace else that's offering,
or try a few of them.
Right. Especially during the week. And I think that you picked a great date. We were talking about the movies that are going to be out. You have F9 is going to be in there, I guess, kind of like an anchor. So talk about the process. Why did you zero in on June 22nd through June 27th? How did this all come about?
Purely by luck at this point. Like anything else, there's been a lot of starts and stops, and I wanted Cinema Week, and at least its first time out, to be the tip of the spear in bringing people back to theaters. And there are some other initiatives going on, so I feel like this is the consumer facing way that we're going to do this. We fully intend that Cinema Week will go on every year, if not twice a year. That there's kind of some seasonality to our business. So in that aspect, that we could do this potentially twice a year. And we originally had some dates, and then we thought, well, we're not quite there yet.
They were in April.
And I really wanted this to be in Q2. Like I felt like Q2 was the right time to do it. Right. Originally, when we set the dates, there were two other films that were very significant that were sitting on or around those dates, and felt like that was a good fit. It was the last weekend of Q2. Did not want it to run into July. But the importance of Cinema Week is really for exhibitors to take a moment and figure out how to market for themselves. And we put this together intentionally for the small to mid-size exhibitors who don't have these big marketing departments. And then we got very fortunate when the bigger exhibitors wanted to step in and also help, because they provide a lot of reach, they provide a lot of resources, they they can help with studio requests and things like that. So it all comes together in a moment. And that's what we have envisioned that Cinema Week is for us. We are creating the moment for the industry to have a rallying point. And each exhibitor then can take Cinema Week, just like Restaurant Week or American Express Shop Small, and make it their own. So we aren't dictating what any one exhibitor does or won't do or what they're offering. And then we reach out to studios and said, hey, we need moments of movie magic. So when you go to the theater, there's this payoff and this reveal of something that I didn't get or couldn't get just by watching the movie at home, let alone the experience. So all of that coming together, and we'll run the marketing, media, and publicity campaign centrally so that there's this one point of contact where everything's happening. But then as a moviegoer, it's easy for you. You purchase your ticket the same way you normally would to the same movie and showtime that you want to go to. And then it's really up to the exhibitor to make it special for you, to have some offers and activations. And then we're working with the studios to provide some unique content and activations on screen.
That's great.
So if I can ask real quick, and I want to pick Melissa's brain on this. So, you're behind the marketing machine of this. As someone who launched an organization from pretty much nothing and kind of had to grow and build and change names and do all this fun stuff. I know it's not an easy process. I know it's very daunting. It's very stressful. It's very difficult. Can you talk a little bit about your marketing plan? How what the steps were? What were the struggles that you went through initially to get this kind of off the ground?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Really good question. When we started to talk about it early, like in September, we started just having ideas. What could we call it? So we weren't going to call it Cinema Week in the beginning, a little behind the scenes. And we just started going through a bunch of names and what are their personas and what can we do to really make sure people understand what this is. And then we started to just design logos. So we have an amazing team of people who are helping us. And we had other people kind of weighing in from the industry. We have a great partner at the ICA, and we were just having these general conversations about what should we call it? How will people understand? And in the beginning, it was really just it was just simple conversation. And then we started to design logos and names, and really we came full circle back around to Cinema Week, because we were thinking, how can we make this simple where people actually really understand what it is, but then also make it feel special too. So, we joke about the name Cinema Week because it is so simple, but in the beginning, we were thinking Cinemaniac. We had a couple other things that we were going through, but that was like in the very, very beginning, just throwing around ideas. Once we decided on that, we went through a lot of different just design and logos, but then it was also, what's our 12-week kind of lead up plan? What's our calendar? How do we get the word out? And in the beginning, like Brandon said, we were thinking that this would be smaller. It would be just for the independent mid-size exhibitors, because we know that they need a lot of marketing help. And the real goal of this program is just to unite everybody during this 1 week. This is never, all studios, all exhibitors. It's never been done before. And we were like, okay, we'll do this marketing campaign. It'll be similar to like American Express Shop Small. We'll create some assets. And it really, honestly, we are flying the plane while we're building it, because so much, it's been insanely challenging. I won't lie to you, but it's been also just extremely rewarding seeing so many people work together. So many exhibitors meet each other because they had never been on calls together in the past like this, studios, and everybody's fighting for the same thing. And that's for success of seeing movies on the big screen. And honestly, it just started to snowball more quickly than we could have expected it to. And everybody wanted to help and everybody wanted to get on board. And really the challenging part is there's so many moving parts to this, which behind the scenes, people probably wouldn't think would be so challenging, but it really, really is. Some people have their own rules and some people have, within exhibition, within the studios, and it's how do you accommodate everything and keep everybody aligned at the same time. So, and making sure that we provide amazing marketing assets and communication to the studios and the exhibitors. So it's been an adventure, I will say that, and it's ever changing. And we've also learned so much for the next time to improve it. But, just our original thought was, let's unite all the cinemas we want to help. Like Brandon and I just came from this place of constantly talking about how do we help? How do we help? How do we help? And why isn't there a cinema week? And so it seems simple, but it was just a general conversation. And I think I know why it hasn't happened in the past. It is because there's so many moving parts and it's so extremely challenging to get everybody on the same page.
How many people are in your team? I'm sorry.
How many people are? Yeah, go ahead.
How many people what?
Are in your team?
Oh my God, this is funny. So I have sent Melissa on more than one occasion that a text message or a Slack that's like, we have no money, our team's not big enough, everybody's, we don't have this, we don't, like, all the challenges that you could think of when you're starting this is a startup business essentially. We don't have a resource for this, we don't have that. And each time Melissa and I have just come together and we're like, just keep going, right? Like, just don't worry about it. It'll figure itself out. So, when we're talking about buying media, we're like, oh, we don't have enough money for that. And we're just like, well, just keep going. We need, like, buying the URL became a thing because it costs that. Again, it's a good name. cinemaweek.com is pretty good. So that's expensive. And we're like, we're just going to do it. And so we've had this mentality the entire time that we're just keep going, just keep finishing. And we're going to get to June 22nd and 27th through the 27th. We're going to learn a lot. I will tell you, Melissa's been amazing. She's rallied people. People have come on because of her. And she has led our team. She's awesome. So we're figuring it out. We don't have all the answers, but we definitely are trying to figure it out.
So is that answer 2 people?
No. Well, okay. So our team, right? Yeah. It was funny, Demetri. You said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a job." Well, great. You can be slightly like we're slightly above volunteers at this point.
Okay.
This is a pro bono project, Demetri.
Well, listen. But that's why with HCA, with the podcasts, I do movie reviews. Again, whatever we can do, whatever I can do. I mean, I did truly mean that. And then I thought, well, I can do something. And that's how I brought it to Scott. It's like, I can do something to help because it is, I mean, I kid you not, folks. I mean, it's an industry that I've loved since I was 5. The movies, that is, not the industry, but going to the movies is something that I've loved since I was 5 years old. And I've made it, it was between that and music. And I've made movies my life's passion. And I've been fortunate where I've worked in many factions of this industry, whether it be distribution, whether it be for Technicolor. I've worked on the exhibition side many a times. I worked for MoviePass before they became public enemy number 1. So it's always been a passion. Yeah, I worked with.
Demetri,
with him.
I feel like I remember when you worked there actually now, and I think back because we truly worked with you.
Well, this was a long. Yeah, that would have been the second iteration of MoviePass. It was when. As Stacy so eloquently put it, the first time at CinemaCon, we opened on a Friday, we were shut down on a Saturday. And then it was the second iteration when because of Stacy, Everything was from the heart. Like, that's why I became part of it, because I believed it was good for the industry. And then other people came in and who wanted to disrupt rather than bring things together, which is what we need. And you're bringing things together. And I know that's herding cats is basically what that is.
Brandon says it's hurting lions.
It is hurting lions for sure.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about
Scott was just really wants to know how many people are on our team.
Yeah.
So Scott, we have we have 4 people on our team, and we flex up and down with people who help us.
Yeah.
No, and the reason I asked that question, and I just want to, not saying that we're in the same league or anything, but I will tell you, I'm also a self-starter. Okay, everything that I have done in this industry has been on my own. So I started out doing MovieManMenzel.com, which was a standalone website that I just did, where it was all my reviews. Then I moved over to We Live Film, where I was able to kind of build a community of people. And then after that, I switched it over to We Live Entertainment, so I can actually have all aspects of entertainment covered. So whether I want to do movies, TV, Broadway, whatever, I can cover it. And I've done that over the course of 20 years, which made the transition. And then 4.5 years ago or 5 years ago at this point, I decided, hey, let me make a difference in this industry, right? We're always talking about change and progress and all this stuff. And it's like, let's put rules here, let's check boxes here, but like very few people actually do something about it. So I said, I am going to make a critics organization that's going to be founded on the idea of inclusivity. Like, that is going to be the heart and soul of it. It's going to be the messaging of it from day one. And when we started out with about 24 members, and now we're going to be at about 80 this year at the end of the year. And like you guys were talking about with the hoops and building relationships, it is not easy. People do not realize how hard it is to put on an award show, how hard it is to get talent involved, to sell this to a studio, to a PR company. And I applaud you for trying and making this work. And the reason why I kept asking about the number is that I know that some people don't realize that literally it's only a few people behind the scenes of these things. I still have people telling me like, oh, you don't do this full time? And I'm like, no, I actually work a full-time job. My wife works a full-time job and I do this. So it's like, I'm crazy. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Well, and to that, yes, we have a team, again, that our team, but we do have contractors, and we have a publicist who's on retainer, and we have people, but we also, this was about enrolling the industry and enrolling them to support this movement and this moment. So, we reached out to studios one at a time and, asked them to participate. We reached out to exhibitors starting out one at a time for them to participate. We reached out to NATO and ICA one at a time and said, here's what we want to do. Will you participate? And then we have a great group of sponsors, Cineonic, the box office company, Coca-Cola, Comscore, Dolby. I mean, we have a full list on our website. We can't thank them enough. We have not raised a ton of money, but these people have certainly come to Cinema Week with their checkbooks to help us do this. So we also formed an advisory panel. Wanda Gerhardt at Cinemark, the first time we talked to her, in literally 2 minutes, she totally got what we were trying to do. And she said, hey, if you're going to do an advisory panel, I'd love to be on it. So we formed an advisory panel that is 18 people once a week to get on a call for 30 minutes and talk about this. So we have a way to guide this. And I do believe, you mentioned South by Southwest earlier, and does anybody remember the first South by Southwest? Not really. It was 20 years ago, but you know what it is now. And for us to be able to be where we are in the first Cinema Week at this moment, if there was ever a time to do this and get this off the ground, it is now. And this is not a one-time thing. So we're going to carry this. We're going to learn. And I truly think in 10 or 15 years, it will be expected that this is just part of the movie industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it seems that you're off to a really very good start in doing this. You've gotten the press, and I actually even think there's another entity out there that just hasn't had the resonance, so to speak, as of yet. But I think Cinema Week will resonate because it's something that people are going to do for that week. Like you physically have to do it.
Correct.
You
got to ditch your couch.
You got to ditch your couch, and you physically like you have like restaurant week. You physically have to go to the restaurant to enjoy whatever that restaurant's offering, right? In all your talk, can you give a hint? What can that movie-going audience expect when they go to a theater between June 22nd and June 27th? What can they expect?
Melissa, you want to drive it?
Sure, they can expect an amazing experience from their local theater, but really the goal is to really enhance the experience. We're working on getting content pieces, so special previews, hopefully some advanced screenings. There'll be some giveaways that you'll only be able to find out in movie theaters, but then also the exhibitors are taking it to the next level. They're making it their own. So I know we've mentioned Shop Small a lot, but it's similar to that where stores and people are making it their own. So potentially discounts and greetings from people in the theater. So it'll be just an elevated experience in each cinema, and they'll all have their own interpretation of how they're going to do it. But we are working on some special things that you'll only be able to see in the theater.
Can you give us a tease or a hint as to what that may or may not be?
Well, some of those would be, there's definitely some exclusive content coming from filmmakers that we will be airing, before the show in theaters, or we're providing to exhibitors for them to air before the movies. There's also several giveaways. I'll give you an easy one. We'll have some signed one sheets and things like that, but you would only know about those when you go into the theater and they play the 15-second or 30-second piece. We'll talk to you about how to go win those or register for those. But there's some other really cool stuff, and there's some advanced screenings that will be coming around. And there will be some pop-up red carpets and step and repeat. So if you want to kind of make it do it for the gram, then there's going to be those opportunities as well. And again, I think it's just about this moment that you'll feel some energy around going to the movies and help us catapult that and be part of this, the big screen is back movement. And, like John Krasinski showing up in movie theaters this week. And I talked to another gentleman who's in a horror movie coming out just in a couple weeks, and he's going to be in theaters over the next week or so. So that's the kind of stuff I think we need to make it an experience. It cannot be, everybody's got to step up their game. And this is a moment that they can step up their game.
Yep. Well, Scott, I think now it looks like we may have lost Melissa for a little bit. So while she's getting her tech stuff up, what do you say we show a trailer?
Oh, absolutely.
For Cinema Week. Give Melissa time to get back. Let's show one of those very special trailers.
All right,
she's back.
Yeah,
perfect timing.
I blame the internet for everything. I don't know what happened.
So I want to ask a really interesting question that you bring up Restaurant Week. It's a topic that you mentioned quite a few times. Are you thinking in the long run? I know again, as someone who's very ambitious with their ideas and likes to kind of take risks and kind of like we can be bigger, we can be better, we can do it. now that you kind of have an idea of how this experience has gone for you, are you thinking maybe in the future that you would actually break this up into like regions and kind of do a cinema week in like LA for like 1 week and then go to like Boston and do one for a week, or do one in New York, instead of it making a huge thing where you kind of have to juggle talent and, all this stuff? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I think that after this initial one, call me on June 28th and we can start sharing more ideas, as we're 25 days away from kicking this thing off. So I think we have already learned a lot. We will continue to learn a lot. Exhibitors and studios will share what they have learned, and there will be another version of this. Doing it all at one time allows us to maximize the moment.
Yes.
And I mean, and to what you're saying, actually, we've been talking and had interest about making it actually a global event versus a regional event or a national event. So there's some people that want to, movies are global. I also think we're already getting feedback on and is some new technologies that are coming to movie theaters. And I think Cinema Week can ultimately become the launching pad for a lot of those technologies, demoing that, in certain theaters throughout the country. So, we're gonna see. I mean, the most important thing is let's make this weekend a success. Let's make each of the next weekends and start building momentum back to going to the movies. And I think that will culminate in Cinema Week.
Great.
Yeah, which I think and we lost Melissa again.
Again.
Poor Melissa. We could play the other trailer, but no, I actually, again, this was something that I thought was a wonderful idea, because anything that gets people in theaters to enjoy that experience. That's, and in fact, it's how I met Stacy. It's how, when I had read about MoviePass, I'm like, well, this makes so much sense. Like, why is nobody doing it? And at the time, nobody was doing it. Now everybody's doing it. So I, at least I could say that. But a subscription service to go to the movies, to me as a movie fan, just made a ton of sense to do. And believe it or not, at that time, I had working with exhibitors. We had 6 exhibitors in queue waiting to come on board to MoviePass. And then, like I said, so somebody else came in and thought, hey, it's better to fight with exhibitors than to make nicey nice with exhibitors. And I just remember going, what's the idea behind that?
Well,
So
I just want to chime in here real quick. I mean, I love
Please.
the ambition that's going on right now with this movement. I think it's a long time coming. I think it's going to do phenomenally well. If you want to ask me, and I know you didn't, but I'm just going to put it out there. I honestly feel that I can see this becoming a yearly event, but I can even see it not only just doing it like twice a year or once a year. I can see it almost like a tour date thing where you're kind of like, you start like in January, like we're in these cities here, and then we're in these cities here, and then we're going to this country here, here, and here. I think this is such an ambitious and a great way to celebrate the movie-going experience. And as much as I don't mind watching stuff at home, like you said, and like we've talked about many times on this show, there is nothing like going to see something that's exciting in a movie theater. Seeing A Quiet Place in a movie theater, watching Avengers Endgame in a movie theater, watching Wonder Woman in a movie theater. There's just an experience. Or even going into like a Toronto or a Sundance. I saw Coda on my TV, and as much as I love that movie, I couldn't help think about being in the Eccles Theater and watching Coda play out and watching people cry and just hearing everyone sniffling all around me. So I just give you guys so much credit for taking the bull by their horns and just kind of like, we're gonna make this fucking thing work. So
Yes. No,
So
but
do you
really,
have a movie that you are most excited to see in the theater this summer?
You know what? I'm gonna. You know, it's ironic, but I am so excited for Suicide Squad. So excited for it.
Okay.
I'm
Demetri?
excited. I'm excited for Bond.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been wait-
It's not summer,
I've been really
Dimitri. Listen to the question. It's not summer.
well. This summer, I'm excited for it. I'm going the whole year. I mean, I've been waiting for this Bond movie to come out for a while. I know it's coming out in November. Uh, that to me is the one that I really can't wait for. Albeit though, Scott, we saw 2 trailers this week.
Oh,
One
yeah,
just this
Last Night
morning
in
you
Soho
shared
was
with me.
amazing. Cannot wait to see that on the big screen.
Which one?
Which one?
Last Night in Soho.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Enough. Like, I cannot wait. Again, it's a fall movie. I think fall is stacked. I mean, it's
stacked.
I want to see Last Night in Soho. I definitely want to see Bond, and then Top Gun. I mean, that's the ultimate
Top
picture
Gun.
for me.
Yep.
This summer, Melissa, what do you want to watch this summer? Like, what are
I
you
want to
dying to
go
go
back really quick because Scott was so nice and gave us so many accolades. But really, I mean, for the people who are listening, Brandon championed this. None of this would happen without his courage to do this. And nobody else has taken all of this just challenge on and weight on their shoulders. So it's definitely Brandon is a visionary and has been pushing this rock up the hill for so many months. So I just really wanted to recognize that. And then what I'm excited to see, coming up recently, Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife. I'm excited to see that. And then Top Gun, of course.
And Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife is going to be like just a few days before it's really leading into Cinema Week. And I think you're going to have a good cachet of movies starting this weekend that'll, the one thing about our current release pattern is it kind of reminds me of movies back in the 70s and 80s where you would have like a weekend like this, and it was a few weeks before the next big movie came out. It wasn't just week after week getting hit. So these movies are going to be Quiet Place 2 is going to be allowed to breathe, and people are going to be able to see it. And it could still very much be around and a factor during Cinema Week. And then you have, as you said, Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife. You'll have Peter Rabbit 2, and then you're going to have like the big F9 going in. I have to say, and I loved, just from my perspective too, when you talk about the mid to level theaters, when I was at Lionsgate, and again, I said I was touring the country, it was those, and when I worked for Universal back in the early 90s, I would tour and go to theaters, and I love the concept that you're kind of bringing something old back that really isn't done or seen anymore, which is a lot of those theaters did a ton of their own marketing. Seriously, they would just be starving. Could you please send me a standee? Could you please give me some shirts? Could you please? And you know what? Because being Lionsgate, an independent, a truly independent, I worked at Lionsgate before Hunger Games ever hit, and I got it. And I was like, you know what? Sure. And I remember when the first Saw movie came out, we put it out there. We did our first contest, in theater marketing contest. And I got so many books, and most of them were from these independent chains and whatnot. I mean, I was getting severed legs and things like that. It was the best thing, but that's when they had their relationships with the nearby restaurants, with the nearby comic book stores or a pet shop or whatever. And, just giving them 10 to 15 shirts so that they could give to a customer, so that they could have a trivia contest, just before the movie starts, and you throw a shirt out. It meant so much for the theater, but it meant something to the customer because they now had something that they couldn't get anywhere else. It wasn't being sent to press or to this. Like, it was the customer that was getting these. And they were marketing gold. And from a studio perspective, they didn't cost that much. But they don't do that as much anymore. But I know that the independent theater starves for that kind of thing, because they always went the extra mile. Not, this isn't disrespecting the larger chains. I did a ton with Cinemark and AMC, but I guess because of that independent, like my roots there, like I got it. And they did work hard to market movies. So I understand your Grassroots going to them like first. I'm glad everybody else came on board. I also believe in this Cinema Week. We had the year of hell. Could I ask, there's a lot of trepidation, right? Are you taking on, like, how are theaters, or how will you go to take head on, like, you know what, it's really safe to go back. Feel good about it. You're vaccinated, do this, adhere. Like I did a going back to the movies 101 video. It's like, just adhere to the movie theater's guidelines. You'll be fine. You'll have a good time. How are you addressing that? Are you addressing it? Because I think that's part of getting people to go back. It's not just content. It's feeling comfortable to do so.
Yeah. Here's the way I feel about this. This may take us down a different rabbit hole, but first of all, absolutely each theater will decide on what they feel comfortable running as a business, because there is not a one size fits all. Different cities, municipalities, states, whatever, they all have their own guidelines and restrictions or whatever. We feel like our stake in the ground was that movie theaters had to be open in all 50 states, as well as LA and New York. That was number one. And that capacity levels need to be at least 50% or greater to be able to pull this off and have a real theatrical experience. And we had to make that call several months in advance to be able to plan for this. And I feel like we lucked into it, right? Or whatever. It's working out in our favor. Now, Cinema Week aside, and just putting my marketing hat on, I really don't feel like the general public is looking for the local movie theater to be the CDC police. So, look, if I'm a movie theater exhibitor, then I am talking about a great experience going to the movies. I am putting my policies either on the website or printed so you know them when you come into the building. But other than that, this is not what I am in the business of marketing. I am in the business of marketing movies at movie theaters, not your CDC guidelines.
There you go.
That's all good. There you go.
All right. I have one last question before we let you go. We appreciate you being on the show. My big question to kind of end with is something that I love to celebrate, is that the coming together. And you've mentioned this about the theater chains and the studios and everyone kind of coming together for this event. I'm curious. Were streamers like the Netflixes of the world and the Amazons like on this train?
This is an inclusive event. If you're going to play a movie in a movie theater, whether that's an event picture, day and date, whatever it is, you are welcome to participate. And we are either in discussion or have talked to those people as well. I mean, we want to celebrate putting the best content on screen. And if that is something you're in the business of doing, we welcome you to participate.
Great.
Can I do a shameless plug before we wrap up?
By all means,
please do this. I was so happy you're going to do this.
I have so many, but I'll just stick with one because I think it's really important. If you go to our website, cinemaweek.com, we have a merchandise store there. And look, Brandon and I aren't making $1 million selling this merchandise, but we've decided to partner with the Will Rogers Pioneer Foundation, who's helped so many people over this past 14 months get through their struggles, because we know that this industry has just been really affected by the pandemic. So if you go and purchase merchandise there, we are giving a portion of all of that money back to Will Rogers so they can continue to help people who have been affected by the pandemic and other things. But it directly goes to people who work in this industry and most specifically movie theaters.
I'm on the website right now. I have it open on my iPad. I am going to buy a shirt.
Thank you, Demetri.
Cinema Week short sleeve shirt. Oh, you have hoodies.
We have hoodies.
Look at that. And
We
you have
really
hats.
want it.
I love hats. I may just buy one of each. Just because I think it's a great listen. I told you this wouldn't have happened had I not read about this in the trades, and I love how organically this happened. But yes, I will go. It's Cinema Week, like a little dash.com. Everybody can go on there. The stuff is actually, it looks really cool, and I love that it's like a faux hoodie kind of thing. It looks great, and I love the hat. I love hats. I see myself, I'm gonna buy one of each.
I mean, if you're going to the movies, go in style.
Yeah, go. No, we
and nobody's ever accused me of style. So, but now you never know.
Well, thank you for letting me plug that. We want to give back.
Problem.
We want to give back.
And one question that I want to ask you personally. So we as an organization, and you only know two of us from this show, but again, like I told you at the top of the show, we're going to be an organization about 80 people at the end of the month. What can we do to help you? What can we do to promote?
We'll take anything and everything that you can do to help promote, but really it's making sure we get the word out to moviegoers. Like, we need to make sure, yes, we can do all of this marketing, but getting the word out is very helpful. If you have anyone that is in your membership that wants to get the word out, we have a ton of content on our website that you can literally download and use anywhere, social media, emails, if you have a newsletter, if you have any influencers that want to get the word out. Really, I think right now that is the biggest thing, because we're 4 weeks away. So we just want to make sure that butts are in seats Cinema Week.
Yeah, there's a full content calendar. We invite exhibitors and studios and our vendors and anybody in the media who wants to participate. We've produced the assets. So, I mean, if you're following the hashtag Cinema Week on any social media, you're just going to see tiles and tiles and tiles of this content, but that's the goal. We'd love the help. And if anybody in your association wants to participate in that, the assets are there for you.
Yeah, and I just want to put this out there for everyone. We have members all across the United States, and we would be more than happy if you needed us to kind of step into theaters and do some sort of event with you. I mean, we wouldn't mind. It's we see this as I pat your back, you pat my back kind of thing. Like, let's join forces and help one another.
Excellent. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so we're going to close out. I'm going to play the other trailer, and that'll be the end of the show. So go to cinemaweek.com and check this out, and be sure to go to the theaters this weekend and in the future. So thank you very much for watching this episode.
Thank you.
And thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Bye.